The News 4i team is here for you.
It's been nearly a year since the state of Texas installed a string of buoys much like these into the Rio Grande. Today, a researcher gave us the first insights into their long-term impacts on this ecosystem.
If you go to the buoys today, you'll see a lot of vegetation growing within the buoys. You see a lot of branches, trees that are stuck up against the buoy.
It's a far cry from what the floating barrier looked like before. Dr. Adriana Martinez is studying how and why this is happening. She's a river scientist that grew up in Eagle Pass, now returning to get samples from the river she grew up next to.
They are not spinning in any way. They're completely lodged there, They now have tree branches and trees stuck in them. There's only a few that are floating way at the end of the buoy line, but for the most part, they're immovable right now.
The state installed the 1,000-foot barrier to deter migrants from crossing in dangerous waters. Do you think they're operating the way that they were intended to?
They're really not doing what they were meant to do. However, they are causing significant damage to the river.
On Monday, Martinez sampled the water, the soil, and the plants that now surround the buoys. She's also looking into how they impact the river flow.
Anytime you put anything in the middle of a river, you're going to slow the water down there. And when you slow water down, then sediment deposits. And that's exactly what I saw today.
Check out this test she ran. You can see Martinez releasing green dye near the buoys to see how the water flows around them. That dye swings predominantly to the U.S. side of the river. She says the barrier is becoming its own little island, diverting that water.
It's a violation of international treaties. We're not allowed to move the water in any significant way in the channel.
Jesse Fuentes runs a kayaking business along the Rio Grande.
It's the beginnings of an island.
He says what's happening with the buoys is concerning.
They're hurting the ecosystem, and a lot of people don't see it. I do, because I take people on the river. They weren't built for this Texas heat. They weren't built to be collecting sediment and debris.
Martinez says these changes are happening much faster than she predicted they would. And if the state eventually adds more buoys,
it's likely to have the same effect, slowing down that water, causing deposition.
We asked the governor's office if Texas has done any environmental testing on the buoys, but have not received a response. Meanwhile, courts are still trying to decide if they can stay in the water or if they should be removed as the case continues. Martinez says she wants to finish this research and quickly get it to state and local leaders.
I hope to publish it, but more than that, I really want to let people know what's happening.
Dr. Martinez tells us it's important that this research continues. She says no matter how long the court case takes, she wants to come back out and keep studying the long-term impacts of the buoys. Reporting in Eagle Pass, I'm Jordan Elder.
Bexar County District Clerk Gloria A. Martinez and County Clerk Lucy Adame Clark's offices are the heart of so many processes in Bexar County. Passports, criminal and civil court documents, marriage licenses, divorce decrees, expunctions.
Millions and millions of documents coming through this office.
Many of those documents containing sensitive information that somehow made its way onto a publicly searchable database in 2022 when Adame Clark's office transitioned to a new software system called Odyssey, a product of Tyler Technologies that was approved by the county commissioners. The public portal had to be pulled offline while the issue was investigated.
That in itself was very alarming to me because it was our records at that point, and I right away made those phone calls and addressed it.
County commissioners voted to expand the use of that software to criminal records and rolled that out between May and June. The public portal was almost immediately shut down after the I-team informed the county that the site was incorrectly showing innocent defendants as guilty and showing expunged case information, records that should have been destroyed. The examples of expunged records being published that the I-team found involved only felony cases, which are exclusively handled by Martinez's office. We asked her how that information got out when it should have never still existed.
We've been trying to figure out exactly what's going on. We've kind of sort of come into a conclusion, but we need to make sure that exactly what's what before we can completely fix it.
And whether any other expunged records are still out there.
If they are, we're going to find them and make sure that they're secure.
Adame Clark's office has used the platform for years, and despite early issues, she praised the tech.
We actually now have a very seamless process.
Martinez's office, new to the system, is still going through growing pains. Asked to grade the rollout as it stands?
I would say maybe a D.
But she remains optimistic.
I think with enough time given for us to be able to explore the different things that Odyssey can do, we will succeed. It should be a success. It's just going to take a little time, but we will get there.
For the News 4i team, I'm Mariah Medina. Problems with the rollout of Bexar County's new records-keeping system caused days-long delays in the release of hundreds of prisoners at the Bexar County Jail. We've sifted through thousands of training records and emails to figure out just how that happened. Emails revealed that problems started coming to light at least a day before the county's June 3rd go-live date. A project lead with Bexar County's IT team asked clerks to refrain from data entry activities while the team engaged in troubleshooting unspecified issues. Data entry is among the primary functions of both the district clerk's and the county clerk's offices. The team lead first said the new system would be ready for data entry at 10:30 a.m., then pushed that back to 12:30, then to 3 p.m. One senior division chief responded, quote, "We were expecting go or no go by this time. We can't have our people waiting around for hours for nothing to happen." At 6 p.m., the project lead gave the green light to begin entering data. A spokesperson from the sheriff's office says around this time, deputies had been booking defendants using the new software called Odyssey under the impression that the booking data would migrate once the software officially went live. Instead, they say Odyssey crashed and deleted the booking information of inmates booked during the 4-day rollout. Deputies had to manually rebook all of those inmates and undertook extensive measures to ensure no inmate was erroneously released. This caused an 800-person backlog that was whittled down to just under 300 prisoners by the middle of the week of the rollout. And 2 days after going live, the county shut down its criminal portal for unspecified, unplanned maintenance. During this time, some people asked for updates on their loved ones at the Bexar County Jail, and others expressed their dissatisfaction with the software. Some asked for additional training resources. And county employees, as well as other users of this software, continue to experience problems. We'll continue our push for answers. For the News 4i team, I'm Mariah Medina.
The Alamo renovation project permanently closes down a major street downtown, and some local businesses are not happy. Monday, a construction crew permanently shut down a portion of one of the busiest streets running through downtown. The Alamo Trust says the section of Houston Street that runs between Broadway and North Alamo is being closed because it includes portions of the historic Mission and Battlefield footprint.
This was the first that we had heard about a permanent closure of that particular stretch of Houston Street. And that's concerning to us because we have a lot of customers that come to see us, have to drive over.
Alexandra Sledge's family owns Paris Hatters, a landmark in its own right that's been selling hats to locals and visitors for more than 100 years. Sledge and several other business owners we spoke to say while the renovation of Alamo Plaza has been in the works for years, they didn't realize Houston Street would be closed until a flyer appeared on their doors just prior to July 4th.
And then they did it right before, right in a holiday week. So we got hit with it, couldn't get a hold of anybody.
In a statement, the Alamo Trust said each business within a 600-foot radius of the Alamo Historic District was notified of this change in 2018 as part of the street closure process. The Alamo Trust says it's used quarterly breakfast meetings, bi-weekly calls, and emails to keep businesses updated. Businesses have been told customers and suppliers can still access them by using Peacock Alley, a narrow roadway known more for its colorful murals than its capacity for handling traffic.
That alley is not wide enough. It can probably barely fit one car. It's not going to fit big trucks.
Some business owners were angry about city grants mentioned in the flyers, offering up to $35,000 to businesses impacted by construction. They were told they aren't eligible because the business has to be at least 2.5 years old and construction had to have started before February of this year. Still, not all nearby businesses are upset with the closure, which leaves the sidewalk open on one side of Houston.
We're feeling pretty good about it, partially because it's going to make people walk right in front of our store.
For the News 4i team, I'm Jay Avila.
Here's our vault right here. Here we go. So these are two examples of privately made firearms. This one is actually a machine gun.
This is a ghost gun, or as the ATF calls them, privately made firearms, even though they look a lot like regular weapons.
Well, one of the things that will be immediately apparent is there's no manufacturer or serial number on the lower part of the gun.
That's Robert Topper, the Assistant Special Agent in charge of the ATF Houston Division. He showed us around this vault in San Antonio, where weapons are documented before they're destroyed.
As PMFs, or privately made firearms, became more available, they were sought after. Because they don't come with serial numbers.
For a while, this is what cartels wanted. It was a way to get weapons that were harder to trace. Harder does not mean impossible, though.
Even though PMFs aren't traditionally traceable, they are trackable if they are used in shootings.
Every gun leaves a unique print on the shell casing it fires, including these ghost guns. That means you can still link crimes committed with the same weapons. But recently, cartel demand has slowed down.
The reliability of those guns is still not as good as your regular manufactured firearm, as your commercially manufactured firearms.
These days, you can buy kits with everything you need to build a customized, but largely untraceable firearm. The ATF says, especially here in Texas, those purchases aren't usually nefarious.
Most of the people that make privately made firearms are just making them for personal use, just one firearm. They would do that, and they don't distribute them.
Where the issue arises, Topper says, is when people leave their guns inside cars. San Antonio police estimate more than 1,000 weapons have already been stolen from cars so far this year, though it's unclear how many of those were privately made.
Michael Waddell, the special agent in charge for the Houston division, says if those firearms end up in the wrong hands,
the investigation part of that is absolutely difficult. But that's where we pair up with our federal and state partners to develop those investigative leads.
There are things you can do to make yourself less of a target. Leaving your weapons at home instead of in your car, glove compartment gun safes, and park in safe, well-lit areas.
It doesn't matter if it's a commercially made firearm or a privately made firearm. We want gun owners to be responsible.
The regulation of these ghost guns could go before the Supreme Court later this year. They've agreed to weigh in on a rule that changes how manufacturers and sellers of these kits do their business. For the News 4i team, I'm Jordan Elder.
When you think graffiti, you're probably thinking of stuff like this. San Antonio artist Joshua Henson, known as Lakey360 on social media, was recently cited for possession of this.
And here's the graffiti instrument, washable sidewalk chalk.
The city of San Antonio's graffiti ordinance labels chalk a graffiti implement. And any chalk markings like the one Henson does, graffiti, even on public sidewalks like here. His attorney, Daniel Mailer, is representing Henson in a separate criminal mischief citation.
Guys, he's telling me he's going to detain me.
One Mailer tried to get dismissed before he says even more time and resources are wasted on a jury trial.
They asked if this was the one that had gotten news coverage. The prosecutor that was there actually agreed with me that this was absolutely ridiculous and that, you know, he had better things to be doing than even discussing sidewalk chalk with me.
Mailer says the prosecutor told him superiors advised they couldn't dismiss the case, so that case and the new possession of a graffiti implement case will likely head to a jury of his peers. Many chimed in on Henson's recent citation, calling for law enforcement to direct their attention to, quote, real crimes. But it begged the question of why washable chalk is in the ordinance to begin with. Archives show it was adopted more than 17 years ago to curb crime and improve the quality of life for people across the city. The language of the graffiti ordinance has always included chalk. The I-Team asked the city whether it had any plans to revisit the ordinance and whether they felt this was a good use of resources. Earlier today, the city provided this statement. Quote, the city's graffiti ordinance is an appropriate measure to protect public and private property from defacement in certain contexts. In this case, a citation was issued and will be addressed through the adjudication process. We asked again whether there are any discussions to amend the ordinance to exclude washable chalk, at least on public property, and whether issuing Henson a citation for having chalk was the appropriate course of action. We didn't hear back. For the News 4i team, I'm Mariah Medina.
The northeast side neighborhood of Terrell Heights has become a shopping cart graveyard.
It is a lot of shopping carts.
Along the roadsides and on people's property.
Our lot alone, someone came up and picked up 56.
Some are abandoned after people use them to haul groceries from the 3 major markets nearby. Others are left at dump sites filled with trash. Ernest Spradling, who works at a bowling center, says he tried to get Walmart and H-E-B to come get the carts.
If I owned those businesses, I'd be coming to get them. That's a lot of money. I mean, those carts aren't $1 a piece.
Homeowner Kelly Grangs says when she failed to get Target to pick up carts, she started calling 311, and crews from the city's solid waste services came and scooped them up.
Until I found out bulk waste was picking them up and taking them to the landfill. So in good conscience, I had to stop calling 311.
The city confirmed it does pick up more than 2,000 shopping carts a year. Most of the shopping carts contain trash that may include clothing soiled with urine and feces, hypodermic needles, and other safety risks. The shopping carts with trash in them are collected and landfilled directly due to the safety risks. We do separate the metal shopping carts and recycle those as scrap metal if they do not contain trash. Target did not respond to our email, but Walmart told us we will continue work to recover our property as quickly as possible using several methods to recover stolen shopping carts when notified. And H-E-B responded, our partners regularly monitor the area near our stores for unattended carts, and our stores work closely with third-party companies to retrieve carts taken from our property. Some grocery stores put a device on their shopping carts, so if someone tries to wheel them off of the property, it locks up one of the wheels, rendering the cart useless. However, we found some carts on nearby streets that had the device, which did not appear to have triggered. Residents say they want a more organized campaign to corral the carts.
This negatively impacts the perception and the reality of our community.
For the News 4i team, I'm Jay Avila. Our report showed how the increase of stolen and abandoned shopping carts is cluttering up San Antonio neighborhoods.
This negatively impacts the perception and the reality of our community.
And how city crews that respond to clean them up often take them right to the landfill because they're filled with trash that is considered a health risk.
If it's just the cart, it looks bad. But a lot of the carts are left, as y'all have seen, with trash.
So it's all part of a larger problem. Through open records requests, we found out that the city of San Antonio cleans up more than 11,000 illegal dumping sites every year, and the cost is piling up. For example, in 2022, it spent more than $500,000 of your tax dollars to clean up those illegal dumping sites, which sounds like a lot, but in 2023, we more than doubled it, up to $1.3 million. And halfway through 2024, it looks like we're on pace to do it again. Already more than $1 million spent on the illegal dumping sites. So this is a problem that continues to grow. We'll keep an eye on it along with the mounting cost to taxpayers. For the News 4i team, I'm Jay Avila. After missing deadlines to begin repair work on the Tower of the Americas, the city is about to make a big change to the $15.5 million project. The inspections we uncovered, which were commissioned by the city, said some repairs were so urgent they needed to be completed by the end of 2020, others by 2022. If council approves the new plan in September, crews could finally get to work. In 2019, inspectors climbed around the tower using ropes and took images with a drone. They found advanced deterioration and excessive cracking on the underside of the top house. Portions of stucco had already fallen, leaving holes visible from the ground. The report called it an ever-increasing life safety hazard for patrons and workers. Over the years, the city has told the I-Team, despite delays in starting repairs, the tower is safe and has passed annual high-rise inspections.
Well, is there any danger to the public in the interim?
I've been told that there is no danger to the public, and if there was, we would shut down the tower.
This month, the city gave us an update. City Council will consider a 5-year lease extension with Landry's for the Tower of the Americas this September. The 5-year term will commence upon the completion of the $15.4 million maintenance and repair project. The statement goes on to say Landry's, which runs the restaurant at the top of the tower, will manage construction and will make improvements beyond what the city is paying for. The inspections said the tower shaft needed repair by the end of 2022 to ensure chunks of concrete wouldn't start falling off. It recommended elevator brackets and guide rails also be replaced in that same time frame to prevent bracket failure. The city says Landry's was given the authority to interview contractors, and it has selected one within the city's budget. $10 million was approved by voters as part of the 2022 city bond. The remaining $5+ million is taxpayer money from the general fund. The city says it will release more details on the schedule for the repairs when the plan is presented to the City Council in September. For the News 4i team, I'm Jay Avila.
Investigative reporting, uncovering the truth for you. The News 4i team.